plugged in from the audio mix.
We don't need to do it.
I'm taking it off all the feeds.
Good evening. So please, those of you who are still coming in, please find a seat quickly. Thank you. So welcome back, those of you who are on the I Am Infinite Possibilities program, and welcome to all those of you who are just here for this evening. It's a very special evening that we've been looking forward to. This is when we came up with this program, I Am Infinite Possibilities. We said it's a new program at the Chopra Center, for those of you who are just here this evening, don't know about it. We said we really want to make this special. And then of course, you know, Deepak's latest wonderful book, Home, has just come out, so we thought, how can we include this into the evening and make it a really super special event? And so that's what we're doing. The poet Shelley said that poetry lifts the veil from the beauty of the world. And William Shakespeare said, if music be the food of love, give me excess of it, that fighting the appetite may sicken and so die. So this evening we're bringing both of those together. The beauty of poetry and the satisfaction of love through music. And so this is going to be a wonderful evening, and this is something that's very dear to Deepak's heart. Deepak and Kabir, who you'll be meeting very shortly, they put this wonderful package together for us, and so I'm very excited about it. I've been with Deepak for many, many years, and I can remember many, many years ago when Deepak used to read poetry to music, and that was always an experience of bliss and ecstasy and joy for everyone. So that's what we're going to enjoy this evening. So I'd like to introduce Jeff Oster. Jeff is going to be the kind of moderator for the evening, and he'll introduce everybody and explain what's going to happen. So please welcome Jeff.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Oster, and it's my honor and privilege to be your MC tonight. And I'm also one of the two producers of this fabulous album, book of poetry. I also play flugelhorn and trumpet on it as well. I'd like to also welcome Deepak's over 2 million fans who we are broadcasting with tonight over Facebook Live. Absolutely. We are here to share with you a new book and album, Home, where everyone is welcome. Yes, where everyone is welcome. It's by Deepak Chopra, Kabir Sehgal, and Paul Avgerinos. Home is a collection of 34 poems and 12 songs, inspired by a diverse group of immigrants like Albert Einstein, Audrey Hepburn, and Yo-Yo Ma. The United States is composed of and built by immigrants, and it has been a beacon to those in search of a new life for hundreds of years. May it always be so. Especially now. Home also has 12 accompanying musical pieces that serve as personal meditations on the essence of home, in which you can reflect upon where you feel most welcome, whether that's a place or a state of mind. The flow of tonight's event will be a panel discussion with all these fabulous people up here with us. Then we'll enjoy some of the poems and the music. And after that, we'll invite a few of our friends to join us to read their own poems that they've made just for you tonight. And lastly, Deepak will guide us and lead us in a guided meditation. And with that, let me introduce the panelists. Deepak Chopra needs little introduction, but not that many know about his musical gifts. He has almost 50 albums on iTunes. Deepak was born in New Delhi, India, moved to the United States in 1970, and became a citizen in 1984. He is an author, lecturer, music composer, has contributed to numerous albums and written over 85 books, translated into over 43 languages, including numerous New York Times bestsellers. One of his songs, Do You Love Me? Not by the Contours, featuring Demi Moore, hit number 10 on Billboard and remained on the chart for 13 weeks. On Home, not only did he compose the music, but he sang, played percussion, even the tom ford drone. Time magazine has described Dr. Chopra as one of the top 100 heroes and icons of the century. Deepak Chopra. To my far right, your far left, Kabir Sehgal is a first-generation American, and his parents are both from India. He's a New York Times best-selling author of 9 books, such as Coined and Jazzocracy. And he's written several children's books with his mother, including The Wheels on the Tuk-Tuk.
Round and round.
Round and round. Kabir is a multi-Grammy and Latin Grammy award-winning producer. He's also a composer and musician. He works in strategy at First Data Corporation and is a U.S. Navy veteran who lives in New York City. Kabir Sehgal. Next to Kabir is Geeta Novotny. She's featured at the very opening of the Home album and is an award-winning artist who has established herself as a leading and innovative singer, teacher, and performer. Geeta continues to meet abundant acclaim for her powerful, rich mezzo-soprano voice. She's performed from the hallowed stages Carnegie Hall, the Metropolitan Opera, to stages of the Los Angeles Opera and the Aspen Music Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, Geeta Novotny. And now I believe Kabir has a few words.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I wanted just to explain the project and thank a few people before we go to the panel discussion. So this is obviously Home, where everyone is welcome, and there it is. And it comes with a book of poetry inside. These are original poems that we've written. Every poem was inspired by an immigrant. It also comes with a CD. This is a CD-ROM. So it's a CD player. And so you can also get the music separately on iTunes or Spotify, so it's available. But I wanted to thank a few people who made this possible. Obviously, a project like this, there's a few dozen people on the project, but people who made this tonight possible. I want to thank Carolyn. Where's Carolyn? Carolyn, thank you for just doing everything you do. You're incredible. Gabrielle, Felicia, Punacha, who's here up front, and Attila, whatever Attila is, Renee, we're giving Renee a full workout tonight with the music. Jake Chapman, Kelly Green, who's been phenomenal. Where's Kelly? Hi, Kelly. Thank you for everything you're doing. Also, Geeta Chopra is here tonight. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much. And lastly, Resilience, our record label, and Hotshot Audio, who put this project out. And that's, I think, everyone for now. We're going to thank the musicians and the poets later. So back to you, Jeff.
Thank you. And with that, let's begin the Q&A portion of the evening. Deepak, can artists and musicians really change the world for the better?
I think only artists can do it. I've always believed that art is the language of the soul. Science is the language of the mind. And art is, as T.S. Eliot said, it's a raid on the inarticulate. So artists are also frequently tortured souls. They are always facing their contradictions, their paradox, ambiguity, and trying to envision a future that is different from everyday reality, and they bring it forth through music, through poetry, through storytelling, through dance, through theater, and they are the conscience of a society. Whenever you have dictators and tyrants and despots in the world, you'll find that they're scared of artists, never of scientists. They can employ the scientists, but artists speak with a rebel's voice. They're troublemakers and they're visionaries, and they offer alternative ideals and visions, and they speak to the heart. So only art, an artist can change the world.
This next question is near and dear to my heart. I find myself getting angry when I think and speak about the current political climate and situation. It's very interesting times we're living in now. What is the best way, Dr. Chopra, for me to handle and process these strong emotions?
It's very interesting that we have a lot of angry peace activists. So, I've always believed that strident, angry activism is just another form of melodrama, and that it doesn't ultimately change anything. So peace can only be created by those who are peaceful. Just like love can only be shown by those who have loved. And I believe that today it's a time for what we call sacred activism, which is not angry, strident, divisive, but which speaks to the soul and the heart, and also offers the light of awareness. You can't fight darkness with darkness, you can only bring in the light. And that's our job. If you're angry, then know that your anger, even if you think it's morally justified, if it's moral outrage, it is still rage. The word moral outrage doesn't make any sense, it's rage. And if consciousness is a field, then even if you're morally outraged, you add to the rage of the world. So before you become angry, push the pause button and observe your anger, and then sing your song.
Thank you. Kabir.
Yes, sir.
You have a question regarding the current
Yeah,
situation.
I wanted to ask, what is your take on the end of DACA and the situation with the Dreamers?
The dreamers grew up here. They're as American as any American we know. And they are the future of the American dream. We're all dreamers, right? And right now, with unfortunately all the tragedy we've seen in Texas and the storm coming in Florida and what's happening with Dhaka, I think we can see that climate change, refugees, immigrants, the government's responsibility, the wall, they're all going to have to be redressed to rebuild Houston and whatever else happens. We're going to need migrant workers to send these dreamers back to their different countries, which they've never actually experienced. They've grown up here, is only going to create more distress. To create a wall is going to take away billions of dollars from the repair that we need to make. We need to readdress everything, the wall, the dreamers, Dhaka, rebuilding America, the maximum diversity in this country, which is a strength, shared vision, emotional connections. This is the microcosm of the planet. And that's why it's such a great country. We don't need to make America great again. America is great.
Yes, sir.
Right now. It's great because of its diversity, multi-ethnicity. I have a grandson who speaks Mandarin, Spanish, English, and a smattering of Hindi because his mother is Chinese American. His nanny is from Guatemala. His parents are from India and China, and his grandparents are Indian immigrants. That is the future.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Kabir, as the son of an Indian immigrant growing up in the South, what are some of your experiences that informed your feelings on this subject?
That's a great question, and a loaded question too, because my father came when he was 16 years old. He left India. He didn't have enough money to come to America, but he wanted to come to America. So his grandmother, my grandmother, his mother sold her jewelry to pay for the airfare so that he could go from New Delhi to what was then Birmingham, United Kingdom. And when he got to the airport, his baggage was 18 pounds overweight, and he couldn't afford to pay the fee. So he decided to go to the restroom and empty a suitcase and put on 18 pounds worth of clothes, right? So he showed up and he was able to avoid the fee. And then they landed, one of the stops was Sudan. So they entered the middle of Sudan at 118 degrees Fahrenheit with all these layers on. But he eventually got to Birmingham, United Kingdom, and he became a machinist in a Goodyear tire factory, where he worked, and he overheard the other department was making a lot of noise, and they were celebrating. He said, "What are they celebrating over there?" Well, they were celebrating the Good Housekeeping Award. So what my dad did is he organized his entire department, and he worked extra hours, and his department won the Good Housekeeping Award in the 1960s in Birmingham, United Kingdom, and that picture hangs on my dad's wall to this day. And he went from there, showed up in the segregated South in Alabama. He attended Auburn University, thinking it was the best university that he had been accepted to, not realizing that the list was in alphabetical order. So everyone knows University of Alabama is the best university in Alabama. So, sorry, Dad. And he shows up there, becomes a civil engineer, and ends up becomes the CEO of a large company and turning it into a global enterprise. So he really is the American dream. And growing up in the South, the question was, what is it like? I went to school, Jeff, and kids would wear Confederate belt buckles, right? And this is not new, but I think also in the South, we, I don't know, like I say it like this, we sort of deal with a lot of race relations. It's like the names of the streets are civil rights leaders. Atlanta's name is a city too busy to hate. And what we did in Atlanta is anytime a company bids on a contract, then you had to find a minority partner to bid with it. So we institutionalized race relations. We hosted the Olympic Games, right? An international city. Think about that. So I often think that commerce, if you're trading with someone, and if you're economically interdependent with someone, that's one way of bringing peace. And Deepak raises a good point about immigrants. Immigrants are so important to the economic well-being of our country. And I'll just close with this thing. 40% of the Fortune 500, 40% have been started by an immigrant or first-generation American. And immigrants make up about 10 or 11% of the population. So think about that. This is Apple Computers. Steve Jobs is a first-generation immigrant. His father is from Syria. McDonald's, Ray Kroc, his family is from Poland. Google, all these companies are so important to the vanguard of America. So if that answers your question.
Beautiful. One more for you. How did you and the home team marry the poems to the music? What was the process like for you?
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about at the beginning of this year is when the political situation turned, Deepak and I had worked on a project that last year that was about taking presidential speeches and turning them into a big band jazz suite. And it did very well, and he had read a speech by Nehru, and one of the movements on the album was inspired by Nehru. So in talking with Deepak, we said, what can we do that, when the president says he says, let's build a wall, it's not just a physical wall, he's talking about mental walls, right? We're starting to close each other off from each other. That is the wall. When you see what happened in Charlottesville, that is the wall. When you see what's happening, in Crissy Field in the Bay Area, that is the wall. So what can we do as artists and poets to bring, shine the light on it? And so, with this poetry project, we decided to take music that's, and you'll hear it, that's sort of like new age meditation music, some people call it hot tub music, and say, can we turn it into more like, and Paul Avgerinos, who we worked with on this project, who's a genius, how do we take this sort of new age music and make it more political, or make it a little more with an edge? And so it was a real tough task to marry that, and we'll talk about it some more when we listen to the music.
Excellent. Thank you, Kabir.
Sure.
Geeta, can you please share with us a personal immigrant experience of yours?
A personal immigrant experience. Well,
Yeah.
my father is from New Delhi, India, and my mother is a second-generation daughter of Irish immigrants. So the story that I guess I would have would be how I grew up as a multicultural child in the 70s in rural Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of dichotomy and opposition right there. And my father was, he graduated from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, as Dr. Chopra did. Very close to, actually, I think he was the same year as your brother. And he came to the United States with an education in medicine, obstetrics and gynecology, and he had a residency waiting for him at University of Maryland. But I have to share this because in New York, at the launch event in New York, you told the story about you blowing your money at the Moulin Rouge, correct? Well, my father had a similar story. When he came, at the time Air France was providing credit to a lot of these recruitments for the doctors to come to America, and my father had very little money, as most immigrant stories go, and he had a layover in France, and he met up with two American men, and they went on a tour of Paris, and ended up at the Moulin Rouge. And because of these gentlemen's religious persuasion, they would not go into the Moulin Rouge, so he didn't want to be left alone in Paris, so he decided not to go. And I recently told him the story about how Dr. Chopra did get the opportunity to go, and it was just funny because that was the trajectory, I guess, to say, with Air France and Paris and coming to the United States. And when my father got to the University of Maryland, he didn't have much money, and he didn't have a place to stay. So he really went through his life with this beautiful naivete, which I think only young, hungry, ambitious people have. We've all had it in our lives. And somehow, through synchronicity and synergy, things worked out in the way that through the trials and triumphs. And so he met my mother. My mother was an OR nurse, and he's a very mind-oriented, industrious surgeon, and she's a very exuberant, heart-driven Irish woman. And she just looked at him, and she became the quintessential support system for him. And they traveled all over the United States for internships and her other residencies. And then the South, he found a lot of discrimination in the South. So he ended up settling in Western Pennsylvania, a very small rural town 2 hours away from any major city. And that's where my siblings and I grew up. And he set up a medical practice there and delivered more than 4,000 babies, bringing life and legacy into the world, and really supporting women's ideals of raising children and working. And he just was all about, service. And he never turned away anybody who could not pay. And that was his life for 40 plus years in that small town in Western Pennsylvania, where I was raised.
Beautiful. And here's one for your life. How did you find your purpose and path with your singing and your business revolution voice?
Well, thank you for asking that.
Absolutely.
I think finding a purpose path is about self-healing. And I think we all have healing to do, and we constantly do it probably till the end of our lives. The voice and the center, the energy center of the voice is about will and communication and self-expression. And when I was a young child, I was kind of nonverbal, actually. I had an older sister who was very, very much the center of attention, and I had a younger brother, and I had a lot of trouble expressing myself emotionally. I was also diagnosed with severe asthma when I was 4, and my mother noticed that I was very closed off, and so she put me into piano when I was 4, violin when I was 7, and through musical expression is how I found my voice originally. And just through the years of just being a quintessential musician, an artist who always wanted to master everything, and we were put into sports and everything else. When I was 16, I finally asked for voice lessons, and my mom said, well, I think you're better suited for the sciences. But I was persistent, I was willful. That's, again, the aspect of the voice. And I went and auditioned for a teacher in Pittsburgh, and she immediately took me into her studio, and then I went to Carnegie Mellon University for my bachelor's and went to the University of North Texas. So I just got an education in music and became a professional musician, much to my father's chagrin, actually, because as an Indian doctor, he wanted his children to be doctors. And he had 2 artists, 2 singers. My sister was also a singer, and my brother attempted the arts, but then kind of took the path of being a lawyer. So through that journey, I became an opera singer with chronic asthma, and just went through the profession like that. And then one day I just said, I don't think I need to take this medication anymore, and I want to not be reliant on anything. And through a 7-year journey, one morning I woke up and just decided I'm done, and just stopped medication entirely. And that was around the time when I had started my new business. So I was an opera singer for 20 years, and then I had my daughter, and while I was pregnant with my daughter, I became very fascinated with a different level of sound and what sound means to us and sound healing. And I was writing for a magazine at the time, and I remember my last article before I had my daughter was about how sound affects the baby in the womb. And then once she was born, she really launched me on my purpose path. And I just needed to know anything and everything I could about sound. I mean, being an artist, I would sing in front of orchestras, and I would produce my own huge sound, but I wanted to know it much deeper, and that led me on this crazy, wild journey to start Revolution Voice, which stems from my philosophy that our voice is our greatest source of healing. And so I provide a method and a practice for vocal coaching, voice lessons, vocal rehabilitation, and sound therapy with these big quartz crystal bowls. And I just kind of jumped off a cliff without a safety net, and somehow it's growing, and I'm very fortunate, very fortunate. So I think I found my purpose through just staying true to my namesake, Geeta. Geet means song in Hindi, and goddess of song, and anything about song, and then also just knowing that breath was very important, and that I could rely on my lungs and my whole body to be a conduit for music.
I think you found your voice.
I think I did, finally.
Now we're going to begin the musical part of the evening. First, we'd like to play a few short clips from the Home album and tell you a bit about them. The album opens with the title track, Home. The very first thing you'll hear is Deepak singing Home, followed closely by the amazing Geeta Novotny, wordless evocative vocals. Deepak weaves in and out of this opening with sung, whispered, and spoken words from the poem as the tapestry reaches its fullness. Kabir sings and plays on this one as well. Let's listen.
And let me just say also, this song is inspired by my father, so you can hear his journey in there a little bit. I'll read the full poem later, but this is Home. Thank you. Geeta, that was great. You want to talk about how you came up with those vocals?
Sure. I was sent a really amazing track by Paul. And I just listened and pulled the mode and the key signature from it and sat down at my piano and just kind of churned out vocals with depth and breadth. Low range, high, everything. And I went into the studio and my recording engineer, Ron Pink, he also helped me produce the track. We just laid a bunch of vocals down and we layered them, and I really just sent a whole mess of vocals to Kabir and Paul, layerings, and Paul brilliantly somehow put the puzzle together and created that track.
Yeah, and it's produced by Jeff and Will Ackerman, who's a legendary New Age producer.
Windham Records.
Yeah, Windham Records. Let's hear the next one.
This next one is a song called Queen, inspired by the great Celia Cruz. This is a real treat as you get to enjoy Deepak's lovely, heartfelt singing even more fully. And you'll hear the wonderful Marie Nobre singing along with Deepak here. Chembo Cornell, he's playing congas, and I believe he also actually played with Celia. And I actually was able to add my flugelhorn to this track as well. So this is Queen.
One of the things I want to bring up is, there's a lot of guest artists on this album, and we tried to be very thoughtful about who we invited on which track, because if you put too many people on a project, it can go from being sort of a cohesive musical message or sound becoming sort of like a gathering point, and it loses a focus, a musical aesthetic. And so one of the things we thought, working with Jeff and Will and Paul, is how do we bring people that can relate to this particular song? So this is a good example. On that track is Chembo Cornell, who's played with Celia Cruz. On the next track, which we're going to hear, is called Survivor, and that is inspired by a man named William Jimeno. William Jimeno is a Colombian-born immigrant who came to America as a boy, became a police officer, also a fellow U.S. Navy veteran, and on September 11th, he ran into the jaws of destruction, and his entire team perished on September 11th. He was a survivor, and this track is called Survivor. And the people we invited on this track are Colombian born, Juan Garcia Herreros, his family actually fled Colombia as political exiles, and now he lives in Austria. And also Amaro Santiago from Puerto Rico. She was in the New York area during 9/11. So again, we try to be thoughtful who we put on which. So every single guest artist really has an experience that relates to the music itself. So let's hear Survivor. Let me just say one more thing about that. When I served, I got deployed, and a lot of our brothers and sisters in the United States Armed Forces are immigrants, and they're trying to earn their citizenship, and they go into the armed services hopefully to gain their citizenship. So when we think about immigrants, like not only have they attained success in the arts or in commerce, but those who are fighting our battles and defending freedom around the world are immigrants and are living that story. And it's troubling to see the stance we're taking these days, and I think immigrants really are survivors.
Absolutely. Okay, so would you like to introduce the band? We're going to go now to the point where we're going to have Deepak read some poems, 3 of them, over some of the instrumental versions of these songs on the album. On the album, it's going to sound different. Deepak's not actually reading on the album itself. It's actually music that's designed to put you into a space as you read the poems and feel them. You won't hear the poems read there, although there is an audio book, I guess, that Deepak is reading.
Yeah, the album is just what you heard, like kind of in and out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we start?
Yeah, why don't you introduce the band?
All right, so tonight we're calling it the Home Base Band. It is the Home Base Band. I'm Jeff Oster on flugelhorn tonight.
Yeah, Jeff.
Thank you. To my left is Liz Lauer, playing percussion this evening. To her left is Wind Walker Dorn, playing the Native American flute. The tall gentleman with the guitar is Shambhu. And on the keys tonight, we have Alec Hamilton. Our first song this evening is called Infinity, inspired by Albert Einstein. Features Lynn U. Evers on piano, Kevin Brahaney Fortune on electronic wind instrument.
You want to share why do you want to write a poem about Einstein?
Well, I grew up with Einstein and Tagore as my childhood heroes. Einstein, the greatest scientist of our time, and Tagore, one of the greatest poets of our time, and great spiritual teacher from India. If you've read You Are the Universe, my book, it begins with Tagore and Einstein. And I've always felt that if science outpaces our spiritual development, then science becomes diabolical. So this poem, inspired by Einstein, is what science can do to us if we don't also keep pace with science, with our own spiritual evolution.
Infinity.
Does the universe have many histories? Infinity asked universe to expand. Cosmos asked consciousness to reflect. Mind asked matter to dream. Time demanded future to accelerate. Will mathematical abstractions obscure doom? Is it too late for Einstein's nightmares? Scientists asked atoms to react. President asked planes to fly. Nuclear asked bombs to explode. Waste demands morality to explain. Teleport me now to another dimension, away from this junkyard of infinity.
The next song is Candle, inspired by Khalil Gibran, featuring Mehmet Ali San Nicole on oud, Steve Gorn on clarinet, and Kevin Breheny again on electronic wind instrument.
This is another example. Mehmet is a professor, I think at Berkeley in Massachusetts. He's from Turkey, so he said, would you like to be on this track? This is from another Middle Easterner, Khalil Gibran, who is a third best-selling poet in American history. People don't often realize that, but yeah, he's one of the best-selling poets of all time.
So Khalil Gibran was from Lebanon,
right?
Great spiritual teacher, but also went through the dark night of the soul. And so this is the dark night of the soul. sparked fire of passion, longings, ecstasy, suffering, craving, pain, death, the gateway to life, love, letting go, dreams, bittersweet memories, wisps of experience, threads of desire, spaces of togetherness, winds of heaven, rebel, hippie, lover, smiles and tears, the agony and ecstasy, love and addiction, voice of conscience, life extinguished, delicate soul, a brief candle, dark night, corridors of time, now here, now gone, the fragrance lingers.
This next poem is called Father. It's inspired by Kabir Chopra, Deepak's father, and here we're going to hear the lovely clarinet of Sunny Kang and the flute of Ron Korb as Deepak reads Father. Existence, you have existed in me from when I first became aware and now. If awareness is life, then you have been my life since I incarnated into experience. And now, from the stories you told to the magnificent hero you were, I am because you were and are. We exist in the awareness where I is thou, thou is me, in everlasting now. Writing this poem, I've had images of my parents. My father was a cardiologist. He was one of the best cardiologists
in all of India. And at one time, he was the physician to the Queen of England, who is still alive. He was also a physician to Lord Mountbatten. And on weekends, he would see patients without charge. They would come from all over India to see him because he was so well known. And my mother used to cook food for the patients. And when they left, my parents would make sure that they had enough money for their bus or their train fare. So they were amazing people. Not only was amazing cardiologist, but amazing human being. And I remember both my parents would pray for their patients also. So that's to my father.
Thank you. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote about my father, so we can cue it up. It's called Home, and he actually sang on this track in your background. So we're going to read this voice again. Blood of Ganges flowed through these swollen veins, now dammed shut by the British Raj. The Raj prevails, Sabji, yet the trains still don't run on time. They grow to a halt. A million dreams dead, an ancient land caged like tigers and songbirds. No courtyards or graveyards for elegies unwritten, but pujas of cremation alongside the stymied, swirling Ganges. Go west, young man. Sweep. Failure quizzes, tests, and exams. Sweep. But sell your rings, strings and chains. Sweep. Go west, young man, to riches, as eagles of possibilities take flight. Sweep those factory floors, $10, no more. Board this plane, sail that ship, avoid every fee. New Delhi to New York, Agra to Auburn, Moradabad to Montgomery, Birmingham to Birmingham, where the greyhounds bar their mediocrity and misery, where Jim Crow's noose hangs its history. Black, white, and those of color. Sweet. Go west, young man, to glory, where a new life begins unannounced. Firm collar, fresh shirt, show me $1, where the Mississippi monsoons lift all boats, and the grass is as sweet as shy. Go west, young man, to thunder and bliss. Unzip your dreams in this lush land. Dream your dreams with a supple mind. Watch your dreams with Hawkeye. Measure your dreams with an engineer's scale. Build your dreams with crushed rock and concrete. Hold tight on political chutes and corporate ladders. Soar, 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 like Arjuna's chariot. Maharaja of Marietta, Guruji of Georgia. Go west, young man, to your new home. And India's and an Indian's Thanksgiving for America, where neighbors become cousins, friends become in-laws, and family is rain on a barren day. Thank you. Now, we're going to let it fade out. We're going to hear some guest poetry that has been written exclusively for this moment. So these are the world premieres of some of these poems. And so we're going to use, I think this, we're going to use this mic, or we'll use this mic up here. Our guest poets over here. So let's begin. Mary Antoinette, why don't you come on up and share with us. She's a phenomenal harpist, lives in the area. Why don't you share your poem? Let's cue the music.
It's the song River.
The song is River from the album, and please take it away.
Special treasures, special treasures, pulled from the soils of the motherland, shackled and chained in the bows of ships, rocking across the seas. My ancestors were not immigrants by choice, nor by force, a language or voice. A genetic makeup from the Congo, Cameroon, and Nigeria. A blended combination, yet never inferior. We're the original blood diamonds, those melanated beings. More valuable than gold, these treasures would be responsible for generational wealth. That would be solid foundation for which this country stands. From the handful survive each rotation, nations will be born. Smart and gifted of my mother's lineage. Doctors, midwives, and professionals are a large percentage. My musical heritage as a concert harpist, embodied from my grandfather, a self-taught pianist and inventor. As centuries passed, so would be the visible scars and tears of the lash. Bodies stopped swinging from trees, and finally, the joyful rhythm of our spirits would begin to soar. Out of the form of dance and song, invention, innovation, continual shaping of many creations. Trained in self-reliance and strong independence, a legacy that will last forever. Special treasures, special treasures.
Thank you. Anna James, please join us. Anna, come join us. Anna James, everyone.
Thank you very much. This poem is actually a song I wrote with Cindy Alexander about finding home right here. I myself have endured 3 immigrations. I was born in Poland, escaped to Sweden. From Sweden, life took us to Canada, and finally here. This is called Find Your Wings. When you feel like you don't fit, you're not understood one bit, find your wings. You can rise above the fray, sing what you can't say, find your wings. When opposing worlds collide, imagine you're the queen of tides, move that moon back into place, if only for your own heart's sake. When you feel like you're alone, look inside your hearts, it's home. Find your wings. And love surrounds you everywhere. Angels see no darkness there. Find your wings. When the voice of doubt creeps in, slay the dragon in its den. Move that ego into place, if only for your own heart's sake. And finally, trust that you're made perfectly. Endless possibilities. Find your wings. Find your wings. Thank you.
Beautiful. Bradley. Bradley, come join us. Thanks for joining us, Bradley Layton, everyone.
Great to be here. Thanks, Kabir, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here with Dr. Chopra today. Thank you. I have a little bit different perspective than most. I'm not an immigrant. I'm not first generation. But let me tell my story. For most of you, your past is near. From one generation to the next, passed down. Written, the details are mostly clear. But I'm a proud bastard, adopted at age 3. I've known nothing of heritage, birthright, or legacy. Is there something wrong with me? I hear people talk of family history, and I wonder if I'm missing out, not wanting for who I am, where I come from, or even things about my health. Sorry. I have to pause for just a moment. My wife asked me if my phone was charged, and I said yes. And it's not. And I've forgotten the rest of my poem. So could we have the next person come up?
Everyone's welcome. Thank you, Bradley.
I'll try again in just a minute.
Ladies, come join us. Lynn Stanley, a phenomenal singer. You're from the Bay Area. You're from this region too, right? Come join us. Lynn Stanley, everyone.
I'm too not a first generation, but my grandfather came from Bulgaria. He was an opera singer. My grandmother was Hungarian. They married in the United States, and life began there. My mother's an Irish woman. I'm kind of around the world personality. My journey has been pretty quick. I began singing only 5 years ago, and now I'm all over the world, having sold 36,000 albums. So I found a poem that sort of expressed my whirlwind journey from formerly being an academic and other things. I hope you'll bear with me in expressing my thoughts on this. I wrote it in 1 hour. Wind of life. Wind, oh wind, where did you begin? Where did you end? Do you just swirl the universe, knowing every bend? Wind, were you there in the beginning, surrounding ancestors as they explored new land? Is your travel timeless and without end? Do you swirl the universe, knowing every bend? I felt your wind as a child of 10, so vivid, so gentle, a good friend. You comforted me with spirits of love, wrapped me in calm during rough seas above. How did you know I needed you to help me bend? Souls of my ancestors, family and friends, our bodies hold keys that link us without end. Ground to sow, garment to create, songs to sing, threads of love and courage, the perfect blend. But wind, do you really know every bend? Wind of life, swirl your love, hold me close and dear. Help me bend with each progressive year.
Geeta, come join us.
This poem is called Names, and it goes with the photo to my track, which is on the home website. And it's a photo of my father with his family right before he left for the United States. And there's 5 people in his family, and this is all about their names. Do you know who they are? My father, Yudhishthir Mohan Bhatnagar, Vrata Bhatnagar. I've listened to their stories, their tales and twists. I've noted their resilience. Their verb persists. Do you know their names? Vigla Devi Bhatnagar, Renu Bhatnagar. I've seen their pictures, black, brown, and white. I've absorbed their images with all my life. Do you think about them? Sant, Lal, their struggles from east to west. I've traced their journeys. Their hearts beat in my chest. Thank you.
First of all, I want to appreciate the great band. They're doing an amazing job. Give it up for the great band. So, I was born in Iran. At the age of 11, we moved out to, we actually smuggled out to Denmark, hoping for a better life. And at the age of 11, I faced racism. So I decided to move to America to pursue my dream. And I do have a lyrics for you. I'll give it 2 seconds.
How about we have Steve come on up too? Join us. Why don't you join that, Mark?
Sure. You can do it. I need to find my lyrics.
Okay. Paper over plastic. Go ahead, Steve.
My mother, her sister, and parents escaped Nazi Germany just after Crystal Night. As a 13-year-old, it was very rough to see her beloved teachers returning from having wrecked their home. Together with knowing the toll of Nazism on Jews in Germany, this had a profound effect on her and shaped her experiences, especially regarding issues of trust. When my mother was 84, shortly after 9/11, she confided to me that she had forgiven the Germans. Witnessing the immense power of the state to foster and perpetuate hate toward Muslims made her rethink her attitudes and ultimately, through empathy, forgive the people of her country of birth, a country with which her family had a 600-year history. So this poem is about the power and the journey of forgiveness. Out of Germany. Even in our darkest night, we are who we forgive. Not a moment goes by before this letting go is done. This constant spring, summer, autumn, winter, a slim red shoot pushing through the snow, a symphony of light gathering for the wilting, mistaken for the dim-lit end. A lifetime of gathering culminates in all that being has born. Drawn together in this raking of leaves, this sweeping of chaos which wind leaves in its wake. All this history recedes the soil, and in the sprouting forgives the farmer the tilling, the fire, the burning of last year's crops. Thank you.
Steve Chopra, thank you so much.
This lyrics about it's called Light, and it goes like, before I came into this life, I was an entity of light. I came down to earth to learn and grow in this third-dimensional linear time. It is not always easy as a human being. There's lots of pain and suffering. But if that's the price I have to pay, I'll do it again and again. For the heart beating in my chest, every moment and every breath, in the shape that I manifest, is all in the name of love. With every triumph and every test, at my worst or even at my best, I I cherish every experience because it's all in the name of love. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Allison Tucker, please join us. Get up for Allison.
I'm a seventh-generation American from immigrants from Germany and England. And I didn't really know what generation I was until I lost my last grandparent a couple of years ago and started searching. I've known the difficulty of making a home in other countries, in Asia and in Europe. And on the other side, as an immigration officer for international students here, helping them with their trying to find a home here. I'm an international jazz artist, and I incorporate all of the passions I have from my travels, and I'd like to share with you my poem, Belong. Where do I come from? Border town girl, from everywhere, nowhere. From pioneers, crossing continents and oceans, crossing state lines and red lines, moving houses under telephone wires, moving west for a better life. Adams, Johnson, Smith. Changing names so you can pronounce mine, so I can belong. But photographs and stories fade. Families, names, buried and forgotten. In time, borders and languages bend like rivers pushing to the sea. Where do I belong? Boundless, hopeful, wanderer, seeker, human, like you. So I follow my heart, because that's where home is. I want to understand, and I cross continents and oceans to find it. And when I do, words, your ways, I want to understand them. My dreams, my future, I want to share them. Where do I belong? Here. With you.
Thank you so much. We're going to end with Jeff Oster, with our last poetry from Jeff Oster, and then we'll end with a guided meditation.
I have two to share with you tonight from people that aren't here. The first one is a poem from Ruth Weber. Let me tell you a little bit about her family. When Ruth was a little girl, her grandma Betty told her stories of how she and her brother and sisters came to the United States during the Bolshevik Revolution. When the fighting broke out, soldiers entered the villages, taking all the food that families had grown on their small farms, while the villagers hid in the protective trenches that they had dug into property. Her grandmother's father emigrated to the United States and later sent for his children one by one. Each escaped from Russia, including her grandmother. Ruth's grandmother kept a book of poems about her childhood in Russia, her journey here, and life with Ruth's grandfather here in the United States. She read them to us often, and then, at one point, she shared them with a neighbor who told her the poems were no good, and she actually burned the book. Ruth begged her grandma to try to rewrite as many of these poems as possible. Today there are 13 of them left, and here's one entitled Mushrooms. When I was 8 years old, one morning with the wet dew, I went into the woods, 3 miles long, and covered with dew, and there the mushrooms grew. I picked a lot of mushrooms with my scratched bare feet, I give them to my children to cook them. But it's my memories that they want more. And this last poem is from a woman named Suzanne Doucette. It's actually inspired by Deepak's project. She grew up in Europe, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and France, traveled the globe, including Asia and the USA, by the age of 25. Always loved traveling, never felt a stranger anywhere. When she came for the first time to California, she knew that one day she would live here. So she moved to Los Angeles in 1983. It was music that brought her here, and love that kept her in California. She got married in 1984 and worked together with her husband, James, in the New Age music community since. Consciousness, awareness, peace through music was their intention, and it still is. Her poem is entitled Always at Home. Knowing my home is wherever I am never alone, I am always at home. What I am is being, all that is, I am never alone, I am always at home. Being presence, timeless, now, I am never alone, I am always at home. Knowing the world appears in here, I am never alone, I am always at home. In this placeless place, this eternal space, I am never alone, I am always at home. Knowing my home is wherever I am never alone, I am always at home.
Thank you. So, that's the evening, our evening tonight. I want to thank the musicians for just stepping up on short notice and putting it together. I want to thank all the poets who came and put their hearts into the words, into the lyrics. We're really grateful for you to do this, and doing this also on short notice. These events come together very fast, very quick, so thank you for being here, all of you. Thank you, poetry. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Deepak. We're going to end tonight. So again, you know, when people get angry, you see a lot of hate out there, just remember to create love and music and poetry and meditation. And we're going to end with meditation tonight. Maybe a short meditation, so take it away, Deepak.
Okay, so let's all close our eyes and observe our breath, remembering that breath is spirit. Going back to scripture, the Lord God made man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Bring your awareness to your heart. Mentally ask the question, who am I? Not looking for any answers, but allowing any sensations, images, feelings or thoughts to come to you. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Now ask the question, what kind of world do I want to live in? What kind of country do I want to live in? What kind of world and country do I want my children and their children to live in? Allowing any sensations, images, feelings or thoughts to come to you. please mentally start to repeat your full name in the following way. I am Deepak Chopra. I am Mary Smith. I am, and then first name and last name. And bring into your awareness right now all the chaos in the world and in your life too. All the problems, all the hassles, all the stresses, the storms, the wars, terrorism, chaos, violence. Any images, any feelings, any thoughts as we look at the world today. So much pain, so much suffering. Mentally ask, what can I do to bring light into this world? To bring love, compassion, joy, equanimity, truth, goodness, harmony, beauty. Once again, allow any sensations, images, feelings or thoughts to come to you as you look at that vision. And now let go of your last name and just repeat your first name. I am, first name Deepak, Rita, Sheila, Ponacha. Just the first name. And this time bring in memories of innocent times, of childhood, of play, or laughter, of celebration. Memories of innocence. And finally, let go of your name altogether. Just repeat, I am, with no name, no memory, no thought. I am. Allowing memories and thoughts to slowly fade out. I am. I am. And now let go of I am. If you want, repeat the mantra aham, aham. The vibration of existence, aham. And finally, let the mantra go and rest in being. Rest in awareness. Rest in existence. Rest in being, which which is home. Bring your awareness back into your body and take a minute or so. Open your eyes. Be at home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight, and I think we're going to be doing a brief signing afterwards. Welcome home.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kabir. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Thank you.